Anxiety has become a default state. For many, it begins the moment you wake. Before you've even left the bed, your mind is already racing, already behind. The pressure is constant. Optimize your morning, fix every flaw, track every metric, stay ahead. There's a system for everything. Productivity apps, breathwork routines, curated diets, digital detoxes. And yet, something still doesn't feel right. Stillness becomes uncomfortable. Control feels compulsory. Any sense of peace seems just out of reach. But this isn't your fault. It's not a personal failing. It's a cultural condition rooted in the belief that with enough effort, you can control everything. But the more you try, the more anxious you become. The Stoics saw this clearly, centuries ago. Epictetus wrote, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." Simple words. But in a world that trains you to chase, to manage, to conquer, those words feel almost dangerous. Because if you stopped controlling everything, who would you be? And what would happen if the storm was never meant to be fought, but watched? So today, let's step back. Let's ask, why do we grip so tightly? What are we so afraid of losing? And could we learn to let go without falling apart? Chapter 2. The Culture of Control. You didn't invent this anxiety. You inherited it. The world you were born into is obsessed with control. From the moment you could walk, you were measured, tracked, and compared. Gold stars for obedience, red marks for mistakes. You were told that success could be engineered. If you just worked hard enough, controlled enough, planned enough, you will achieve success. And so you tried. You got the calendar, the apps, the routines. You fixed your diet, tracked your sleep, journaled your goals. But the more you optimized, the more fragile you became. Because underneath the rituals of self-improvement is a quiet belief that if you just do everything right, nothing will go wrong. But life doesn't follow spreadsheets. It breaks patterns, throws storms with no warning. And somewhere deep down, you know this. That's why the control never brings peace, only more fear and anxiety, more urgency, because it's never quite enough. And when something slips through the cracks, when the job falls through, the relationship ends, the body breaks, you blame yourself. You didn't control hard enough. You didn't see it coming. But what if control was never the goal? What if this idea that everything can and should be managed is a kind of modern superstition? Here we bring in the fundamentals of Stoicism. The Stoics didn't believe in micromanaging reality. They believed in aligning with it. Epictetus taught that our peace depends entirely on separating what is within our power from what is not. Your actions, your thoughts, your values, yours. Other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, never yours. And Marcus Aurelius knew this too. In the quiet of his own mind, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't preaching. He was reminding himself. Over and over. Because even an emperor, perhaps especially an emperor, needed to let go of the illusion that he could control everything. And yet, we've built a culture on reversing this. We try to fix people's perceptions, control the future, force our bodies and minds into submission. We are trained to grip what was never ours, and that grip becomes our prison. Social media is evil in this sense. Every scroll is a billboard for someone else's illusion of control, perfect routines, endless achievement, essentially, fake lives. But you don't see the anxiety and stress behind the pixels. You don't see the sleepless nights. You don't see the truth, that most of us are just holding it together, afraid of what will happen if we let go. But what if it brings genuine clarity? When you realize what is truly yours to shape, you step out of the storm. The world doesn't get easier. You just stop trying to bend it into submission. And something strange happens then. You become less like a machine, always calibrating, and more like a tree, rooted, responsive, still. And when things go wrong, and they will, you begin to see them differently. Not as glitches in your system, but as invitations. Like levels in a video game, the harder it gets, the more you level up. Rainy days, bullies, breakups, bad grades. Each one, a lesson, a challenge, a moment to train the mind, not punish oneself. Because life isn't a project to perfect, it's a forge. And every setback, every hardship, every moment you didn't plan for, that's the fire. That's where you're shaped. Now, if you've been gripping too tightly, it's not your fault. You were taught to. Nevertheless, in this moment you can choose to see it differently. And that choice is the first real control you've had all along. Chapter 3. Crystal clear on Stoicism. Now that you understand how society feeds us this anxiety-inducing illusion of control, and you've started to see how separating what you can control from what you can't could offer a kind of freedom, it's time to zoom out. What exactly is Stoicism? Where did it come from, and why does this idea of control, this invisible line, matter so deeply to how we live? Stoicism is an ancient Greek philosophy that teaches one simple but radical truth. Peace and strength come not from controlling the world, but from mastering your response to it. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending nothing matters. It's about understanding what truly does. It's not about passivity. It's about power. Stoicism was founded in Athens around 300 BCE by Zeno of Citium and shaped by some of the most fascinating minds in history. Seneca, a Roman politician and writer, Epictetus, a former slave-turned-philosopher, and of course, Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled an empire by day and wrestled with his soul by night. These men didn't live in comfort. They lived in war, exile, political pressure, and deep uncertainty. Stoicism wasn't their escape, it was their anchor. And at the heart of this anchor lies one of the most powerful tools any human being can carry, the dichotomy of control. It's the understanding that life can be divided into two clear halves. What's in your control and what isn't. That line may be invisible, but once you see it, it changes everything. Most of our suffering comes from trying to control the uncontrollable or from abandoning responsibility for what is within our reach. But once you learn where that line sits, something inside you shifts, and it can completely change how you interact in this world. Or, as we already hinted at, this world almost like a video game. You don't control the map, the terrain, or when a tough level begins. You don't get to pick the enemies or skip the cutscenes you didn't ask for, but you do control how you play. Your attitude, your building, your choices, your pace. You decide whether you panic or stay calm, whether you complain or adapt. Every hard level. It's not failure. It's a skill check. A rainy day. That's a new DLC map pack. A breakup? Well, that's your boss fight. A public embarrassment. That's the side quest in humility. You're not here to win life. You're here to level up. And that means every moment is playable, even the difficult ones. You stop seeing failure as defeat and start seeing it as XP, experience points. And yes, you can still have goals. You can still aim high. But now you walk the path lightly, playfully. The grip loosens. The world doesn't feel so hostile. It feels like a game worth playing. That's the magic of Stoicism. It doesn't erase life's chaos. It just hands you the controller. Life becomes playable, not just survivable. So now that we've made the foundation clear, what Stoicism is, where it came from, and the single line that changes everything, it's time to go deeper. In the next chapters, we'll explore both sides of that divide. First, We'll explore what's within your control and how to master it. Then, we'll look at everything that isn't, and why that surrender is not weakness, but the beginning of peace. The dichotomy is not a restriction, it's a gift. Chapter 4. What you can control. Most things in life are not yours to command. Not the weather, not time, not traffic or illness, or what someone thinks of you. Not even how today will end. But there is a smaller circle, quiet, often overlooked, that is fully, utterly yours. And it's enough to build an unshakable life. This is what the Stoics called your domain, your inner citadel, your command center. You can't control the world, but you can control how you meet it. And in that tiny circle sits everything that matters. You can control your thoughts, the way you speak to yourself, the story you attach to an experience, the meaning you make from pain. You can choose to focus on what's real and helpful instead of what's imagined and feared. You can control your actions, the words you say, the things you do, the moments where you pause instead of react. You can choose to respond with grace instead of rage, or walk away when everything in you wants to stay and fight. You can control your attitude, your willingness to adapt, to be curious instead of bitter, to ask, "What can this teach me?" instead of, "Why me?" You can't stop the storm, but you can be the calm center within it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." And he was right. You can't control your reputation, but you can control your character. You do control whether you gave your best effort, whether you acted with intention, with integrity, with heart. And when you zoom in on this, when you stop trying to fix the world and start mastering your response to it, something changes. You realize this is your superpower. This tiny circle is all you need. The world can take your money, your comfort, your plans, but not your values, not your decision to show up quietly as the person you've chosen to become. And if that feels abstract, return to the game. You don't control which level comes next, but you do control your loadout. You control how you react when you lose health, whether you give up or find another way through. That's what Stoicism is training, and suddenly the game shifts. You're not surviving anymore. You're playing, fully engaged, fully present, not because you control the outcome, but because you trust yourself inside the chaos. You don't need to win every fight. You just need to keep playing well, and that's enough. But there's one more lesson, perhaps the hardest and the most powerful of them all. The real transformation doesn't come just from gripping what you can control. It comes from releasing what you can't, from loosening the hand, from letting go. And that is what we'll face next. Chapter 5. What you cannot control. We're taught that letting go means giving up, that surrender is a kind of failure, but the Stoics saw it differently. Letting go is wisdom. It's the moment you stop wrestling with a river and learn to float. When you accept what you are never meant to carry, a kind of strength appears, not loud, not forceful, but steady. There are things in this life you cannot change, no matter how tightly you grip. Other people's opinions, their judgments, their misunderstandings, their silence. You can offer truth, but you can't control how it lands. The past, etched, irreversible. You can replay it, regret it, try to rewrite it in your mind, but what good is that? The past remains. The future, unknowable, even with the best laid plans. Outcomes. You can give your all and still fall short. You can love with everything you have and still be left. You can do everything right and still be misunderstood. And beyond all of that lie the bigger truths. Time, illness, change, death. Life does not ask your permission to unfold, and that's terrifying until it isn't. Because there's a gift hidden here, a freedom. The less you try to bend the world, the more you can dance with it. You stop draining yourself in battles you were never meant to win and start focusing on the one thing that was always yours, your response, your integrity, your peace. The Stoics didn't tell you to stop caring. They told you to stop clinging. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Epictetus reminded us, "Don't seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it does. Then you will be happy." Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Imagine life as an ocean. You don't control the tides. You don't command the waves. But you can learn to sail, to adjust your sails, to navigate storms, to float when there is nothing else to do. And that's the shift. You don't need the sea to be calm. You just need to stop trying to dam it with your hands. The same is true in the game of life. You don't get to skip levels. The game glitches, loads slow, hits you with surprise bosses. But you still get to play. You still get to choose your build, your play style, your grace under fire. You're not the designer. You're the player. And that's more than enough. The irony is, the less you grip, the more clearly you see. The less you demand, the more lightly you walk. The less you try to force, the more space there is for peace. The Stoics weren't cold. They were clear. They understood where their energy ended and the world began. And once you stop fighting what you can't control, you begin to learn from it. You begin to grow. Every storm becomes a teacher. Every failure becomes a lesson. Feels like a breath of fresh air, doesn't it? Chapter 6. When life tests you, walking the Stoic path. It's one thing to understand all of this in theory, to feel the wisdom of Stoicism on a quiet evening or in the glow of a well-edited video. But life will test you, not with philosophy books or podcasts, but with people. With moments that punch you in the gut before you've had time to think. A partner walks away without warning. A message you needed never arrives. Your hard work is met with silence or dismissal. You lose something you were sure you couldn't live without. And in those moments, everything you've learned is called forward, not to perform, but to practice. This is where Stoicism becomes real. Not as a set of beliefs, but as a posture. You pause, you breathe. You remember, I don't control this outcome. I don't control what they do. But I do control how I respond. I control whether I spiral or stay grounded. I control whether I lash out or move with quiet integrity. That pause, those few seconds of stillness, that is the Stoic path. Not perfection, just a space. A breath between the world and your reaction to it. And over time, that space becomes strength. You begin to trust yourself. Not because life is easier, but because you are clearer. Stoicism doesn't remove the pain. It helps you walk through it without losing who you are. It's not a hack, not a posture of cold detachment. It's a quiet rebellion against panic, against ego, against the illusion that you must control it all. Imagine standing in a river. The current rushes around you. You don't try to stop it. You don't chase every ripple. You simply become the stone, still, grounded, unmoved by every splash. This is what you've been learning. This is what you're capable of. And this clarity, this strength, this stillness is enough. You don't need to win every battle. You just need to remember the line. That is the path. A quiet revolution, one moment at a time. If something shifted in you while watching this, pause. Don't rush back into the scroll. Sit with it, write it down, and ask yourself, what can I actually control? Let that question guide you gently. If you want more of this, quiet revolutions, timeless wisdom, tools for living in this chaotic world, you're already in the right place. Subscribe and share in the comments something Marcus Aurelius would be proud to read. What in your life will you stop trying to control? Future you is waiting for that change.